Hi everybody, on behalf of Zycus, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all the panelists who have taken out the time to join us today on this Hangout platform. Before we start our discussion, I would like to introduce the panel. We have among us Andrew Bartolini, Chief Research Officer from Ardent Partners, Buchanan, who is the CPO at Digital Rivers. We also have DeHart amongst us. He's an ex-CPO from Scientific Atlanta, Richard Waugh, who will be joining us soon. And last person on the panel, Tina Richards, who's a Senior Director from SAIC Shared Services. The panel discussion will focus on skills required for the modern procurement professionals. And I now request Andrew to please take it forward.
Yeah, so thank you for the introduction. My name's Andrew Bartolini. I'm here with a couple other folks. I see that Richard Waugh just joined from Zycus, and maybe I'll invite him to introduce himself. Richard?
Everyone has technologies here with the Google Hangout, and would love to invite you into the interaction to hang out and collaborate together with us. And we did have a topic which this panel of experts is eminently qualified to comment on, which is around the idea of how the skill sets are changing and the requirements for the modern procurement professional to drive performance to the next level. And that's what we wanted to chat some about today. Andrew's done a multi-part series on this topic about the skills required for the modern procurement professional, and has a lot of interesting data that's come in, but wanted to get more of the first-hand account from you folks as well. And kind of to kick off the discussion today, just thought it would be good to get your initial reaction to, as you look at your organizations, what would you say are the relative strengths and weaknesses from a skill set standpoint? And keep in mind that the type of skills that Andrew's been getting polling feedback on include more strategic skills like sourcing, category management, as well as more operational skills like transactional procure to pay, along with business skills and financial acumen and technology skills. So wanted to throw it out to the group to kind of comment current state of affairs. What do you see as the relative strengths and weaknesses from a skill set standpoint?
I can go first. I'm happy to talk about it.
Please. Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah, this is Dawn Buchanan. I'm at Digital River, and my background, I've been with mostly very large companies, Cargill, Accenture, General Mills. This company is a little bit smaller. They've decided that they want to create a global procurement organization, so they've invested in having a CPO and adding some people on board. So I inherited some of the people that were here. There were just a couple of them, but what I'm seeing, for my group, moving from the transactional kind of procurement to strategic sourcing, it's a bit of a stretch for some of them, and I keep trying to help them understand that that's our job, is to bring strategic ideas to the stakeholders. And I get kind of pushback, well, no, that's not our job. They'll tell us what they want to buy and we just go buy it. It's like, no, we're supposed to help them with strategic sourcing. So at this point, I'm trying to help them with that transition. I think, they're very good at the transactional knowledge and very good at coming up with, improvements to our system and the relationships that they have with the stakeholders. I think another area they could improve on is probably financials. I think it's very important to understand the full supply chain, and when you're looking at total value, to understand other levers that you have in the supply chain to create value, and then be able to quantify that value. And we have some folks, as we're asking them to quantify savings, kind of struggling with that. So those are some of the key areas that I've been focused on.
That's great. So it sounds like the transactional is the comfort zone and trying to shift more strategic. Others have similar or other viewpoints as well?
Yeah, this is Rick DeHart. I was CPO for Scientific Atlanta and Cisco. And basically, I do agree with Dawn. I think moving from a more operational environment to a strategic environment can be a challenge. I think the way we looked at it in Cisco was, several dimensions of an individual. most of those dimensions revolved around leadership, collaboration, and innovation. And those are the areas that I think we evaluated all of our people. I had a small group, 100, 110. So my group was not big, but we looked at the ability for the individual to be able to bring innovative talent to the organization in the form of collaboration, learning themselves, executing. There always has to be a results piece of this. Accelerating the performance, accelerating the time it takes to be able to, be adept at a certain strategy, and of course, disruptive technologies. To what extent, are you creating innovative solutions? So a lot of the things that we did were kind of revolving around those areas, and if an individual did well in those areas, they had a potential for being a significant player in the company.
Thank you, Rick. I know one of the things that we're citing in a webinar we're doing on this topic next week is some data from CAPS, the Center for Advanced Purchasing Studies, that says across all industries, the current allocation between operational and strategic is actually 60% operational, 40% strategic. Be interested, is that similar to what you see currently? And what is the optimal allocation? What should it be?
Well, again, it's just my perspective as, the CEO or CPO, but I would say that that strategic has evolved, is moving forward in a big way. You can implement systems, processes, applications to kind of remove or slow down the tactical and operational piece of things. There are, in fact, Zycus offers products that help with the operational side, so you can develop those individuals on the more strategic side. It takes time, granted, but I believe that for me, my goal was to have 80% of the effort and time of my employees spent on strategy, sourcing development, and strategic commodity development, versus and 20% on tactical. And it was my job to bring that tactical and operational piece down. Okay, and we don't know if we ever really got there completely, but hopefully that hopefully we made some improvement in that area.
Okay,
Right.
Thank you, Rick. So 80-20 might be the optimal. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I was going to say that it depends on the maturation of a procurement organization as to the allocation of where they're going to place their resources, more on the operational side or more on the strategic side, right? If you are, if it's a greenfield opportunity, right, there's a couple of different paths that CPOs tend to take. One of those is getting their house in order and focusing on cleaning up the operational side first, driving some savings, getting compliance, getting some credibility, and then taking reallocating resources from the savings generated there onto the strategic side. But I think that, for viewers of this, they shouldn't come away with that there's a definitive answer. Really, it depends on the amount of spend that you have under management, the level of engagement you already have with your organization. And, if we were to go back to why we started this research and this study in the first place, it was that, when we interview and work with and talk to CPOs, right, and we ask them what are their primary constraints and challenges as they look out specifically into 2014, top of the list is staff and talent constraints. And so one of those components is the number of staff that we have, right? So even the top performing procurement organizations have a very difficult time getting new headcount. So that's one component, right? You're stuck with the staff size that you have. The second component is that as procurement influence continues to expand, right, as procurement is oftentimes rewarded for the work that it's done, it's given more responsibilities. For it to be able to scale with a smaller staff, it needs to have staff that's highly capable. And some of the research that we've done and what we're going to present next week on the webinar is going to show you that it's very, very mediocre grades across the broad skill sets that procurement organizations have today.
So following up on that point, Andrew, I think your research has concluded that in most cases, CPOs don't have the luxury of increasing headcount. And we're given that as a constraint and the goal to become more strategic, what strategies or what tactics have you seen adopted to address those skill gaps? Is it outsourcing? Is it upskilling? Is it applying technology? Is it all of the above? And how do you determine, Dawn might be interested in having you kick it off, so how do you address, if you don't have the luxury of going out and adding headcount, how do you kind of change the equation to become more strategic? What strategies for upskilling the workforce?
Okay, so coming into this situation here, they didn't have corporate cards. Visibility to the spend is huge. And if you don't have that, it's hard to focus on what you should be doing strategically. So that's been my initial focus, is looking at implementing corporate cards and Concur and different expense reporting tools to get the visibility. Then also using outside help. So educate the team on what's going on in different categories. We have several resources, whether it's Aberdeen or Gartner or whatever it is that has publications on different categories. So I'm really trying to get the team used to leveraging those. And then once we can automate and get the data that we need to move to be more strategic, that's when I want to really push them to look at strategic solutions. Right now it's a lot of time just trying to get the information.
Right. And so I'd say, Richard, to the question, what are the strategies that are being employed? It's really an all of the above type of situation. I think that we've started to use the phrase "do better with same" as opposed to "do more with less," because I think doing more with less is going to be the standard operating procedure for procurement organizations over the next decade and beyond. And that doesn't just hit procurement; it hits all business functions. Organizations need to be efficient and they need to be effective. But if you look at the average procurement organization today, they manage about 60% of total spend, which means that there's an opportunity to go out and influence, an additional 40% or 2/3 more of that spend. And so there's got to be an ability to scale if your headcount is going to be constrained, right? And so I would think that technology is certainly one mechanism that provides scalability to take on more projects from a sourcing standpoint, to ensure compliance from a more operational or contract standpoint. And beyond technology, I think that you do see procurement organizations really looking to expand the skills, and it's the skills not just in the core sourcing and procurement areas, but it's expanding the broader skills of the professionals who have to engage with the stakeholders and budget holders in the larger organization. Because one of the primary CPO strategies over the last couple of years, as far as achieving their goals, is to become better collaborators. And to be able to do that, you need people who can walk into a conference room, meet and engage and connect with people, and then explain what it is they want to do, and then be able to execute that. And that's a broader, we call business consulting skills, which are an important part of the procurement department's toolkit. So I think there's many ways to approach it, and I think for procurement organizations, you need to go down and pursue all of those paths.
Thanks, Andrew. And Richard here again. From the Zycus standpoint, as the resident technologist, we're always very interested in how technologies are being deployed and adapted to move this needle towards the more strategic focus that we mentioned. And Dawn, you hit on one point. Oftentimes the best starting place is getting spend visibility and that kind of analytics. And the thing we see as a coming trend is the proliferation of analytics beyond just spend analysis, but throughout the source-to-pay process, and maybe beyond a person or two, or even a center of excellence where those analytical skills reside. To kind of how do you mainstream analytics as a core competence across the organization? So be interested to hear any commentary on what you see as the importance and the role and maybe growth of analytics as a key enabler for procurement organizations.
Well, I personally think it's absolutely critical. You have to be comfortable with data and being able to chart data. Where are you using the product currently? How many suppliers you have? So getting very familiar with Excel spreadsheets and charting so you can go to the stakeholders and show them what's going on currently to help identify new opportunities. So I'm a big believer in that, and not just analytical skills, but finance acumen. So, you know, if you change the terms of your agreement, what value does that bring to the company? So I think all of that and understanding the supply chain in a broader sense and the different cost drivers and the analysis you can do across the entire supply chain that you can influence from procurement.
And is that analytical capability currently a relative strength or a weakness? Are those skills in short supply?
It's definitely a development area for some of the team. We have probably 1 or 2 people that are very good at it, and we just need to make sure that that extends so everybody has a certain level of capability in that area. What about other folks? Are they seeing that they have strength in that area or development opportunities?
Yeah, Andrew, maybe you might want to weigh in on that, what you're seeing from different organizations with regard to technology skills in general, analytics in particular, and how they're trying to develop those.
Yep. So right. So we surveyed about 200 and a little bit more than 270 chief procurement officers and other procurement executives, and asked them to evaluate their skill sets and grade them on a 1 to 5 scale. And what we found were very average results for even the core sourcing and operational procurement skill sets. When you start to look at more broadly at the skills that organizations need, data analysis was I would say slightly below satisfactory. Financial analysis skills that CPO, and these are CPOs reviewing in aggregate the skills for their entire departments. Financial analysis skills were very average, but when it came to areas like utilizing technology and really optimizing that usage, that was among the largest skill gaps that exist in organizations today. And so some of it all sort of blends together when you look at data analysis and are you utilizing tools or not. But I think the main takeaway is that for procurement professionals who are just getting started in this industry, there is an absolutely fantastic opportunity for you to fast track your career by building out a robust set of skills. For CPOs like Dawn and like Rick, you've got to figure out what's the right blend, right? Of investing in outside training, finding third parties to take on the work itself, utilizing technology to make the learning easier, and go from there.
Yeah, Andrew, this is Rick.
Rick.
I totally agree with your assessment of where we are today and what's going to be required in the future. What I did, and I'm not saying this is right, but when you took a high potential candidate that understands collaboration, understands how to execute, has some innovative ideas, but not necessarily the whole package. A young person that's coming into the organization, but you can tell they have potential. And again, this may be ridiculous, but I used to pair them up in the negotiation with a pretty seasoned person. I used to have them tag along and work with, me on areas of strategic importance, so that they wind up understanding how a seasoned person may do it. Okay, and over the course of time, these things take years, and a good, talented person that may not have every piece and every bit, pair them up, bring them in. They may be the commodity manager for memory, but bring them into a negotiation for hard drives, because the hard drive guy is pretty good, or the video person is pretty good, and right. They don't have to do anything. They just listen. They listen, and hopefully they absorb. And I found this one-on-one or this group on, including these folks in areas that they may not have any really commodity responsibility in, just with a good person, can help over time.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, right? So maybe I'll pose a question back to the three of you, or Richard weigh in as well. When you are recruiting and looking for, when you do get those new job requisitions or that you have that opening, do you tend to emphasize sourcing or procurement domain expertise, or are you looking for the most talented individual who maybe has a broader skill set but you know, not a depth of sourcing background or category expertise? How do you balance those, and what are you looking for in the market?
You know, I've been fortunate to hire lots and lots of people over the years, and some of the things that I look for is a master's, an MBA. Okay, I don't look for commodity. To your point, Andrew, I don't look for commodity expertise. Whatever commodity they're going to go in, if they carry the collaborative, the execution, the learning, the disruptive concepts, if they carry those innate skill sets, they don't have to know memory. They don't have to know ASIC. They don't have to know PWB. I will teach them that. We will teach them that. And you know, they will become, you know, my goal, they will become experts, hopefully, in those areas, because they, to your point, they offer the innate skill set that that's very hard to find. And then we'll teach them the rest. And you have to, I mean, I look at this as bringing on a person. I expect that person to be with me for 8 to 10 years and be in the sourcing team. You know, I expect them to be world-class commodity managers that are industry-wide recognized in the industries as being excellent. And so these things take time. But if, to your point, if you find the right person, and they may not necessarily have, you know, FPGA skills, we can work on that piece. And hopefully that makes sense.
I was going to say, I agree with Rick for the most part, because I think there's a difference between skills and knowledge. And if they have some of these core skills, like being able to analyze data, understanding financial spreadsheets, being a good relationship builder, those are kind of core things, and then we can teach the category. The only exception I had was a marketing person I hired, and my marketing team at the company was very suspect about anybody that didn't come from a marketing background. So there I brought somebody in that had deep marketing knowledge to be credible to that stakeholder group, and he had done some sourcing, but he didn't know if it was 7 steps or 5 steps or, you know, the lingo that we use. So that is how we approached that one, and he picked it up very quickly. And that's the only exception I can think of. For the most part, it is more about the basic skills. And I know for myself, I've gone to sourcing commodities I didn't even know how to spell. You know, they said, "Can you help us source this?" It's like, yes, I will learn about that, and we will apply our methodology, and we will find savings.
Well, that's great, Dawn. And you know, we've been talking to some extent here about how the workforce is changing, the type of skills you're looking to recruit for, and one of the macro trends is that the demographics are changing significantly. So the baby boomers like me are retiring, and they're being replaced rapidly with millennials. So I can think more than 1/3 by next year, about 2/3 in 10 years' time. So Tina, I'd be interested in your perspective on this point. What do you see in terms of the skill sets, in terms of the expectations of that new wave in the workforce, the millennials, and do you manage and motivate them differently than other members of your staff?
That's a great Melissa, but yes, I think that their skill sets, I think they're an agile group. They're a hungry group, and it's fun. They're to sometimes remind them that you know, you've got to cut your teeth and pay your dues, but that impatience is somewhat offset by their drive. And I've found that I've been very happy with my millennial. I apologize, I've missed a lot of the questions. I've had so many connectivity issues, but diversity is what actually makes the team special. You know, I've got people with a manufacturing background. They love to buy for programs that have a manufacturing element. I have people with a marketing business development background, and they treat all of our vendors like customers. and that's wonderful for building those vendor relationships. I think I answered more than just your question, but to get back to the base question, yeah, I'm very pleased with the millennials. We just have to, manage those expectations. It takes time.
Oh, thanks, Tina. I'm glad you were able to rejoin us. Really appreciate your perspectives. And again, as the resident technologist, we're very encouraged by just how comfortable these millennials are with technology, and the fact that their expectation is that they'll have state-of-the-art tools and technology. And I think we've had a great discussion. Yes. Speaking of technology, we've used this new Google Hangout, and I really enjoyed the format. They all have their own challenges, but it was great seeing everyone and hearing from everyone today. And really want to thank you for participating. And we'd love to have a chance to hang out again and maybe cover some additional topics.